Hello, this is Reed Stow from Rex Game Studios to talk to you about Storm Quest the game Project Dome, our proof of concept that we're working on right now at this time. But before we get into that, I wanted to say a great thank you again to everybody who asked great questions this week. We will be answering those questions towards the end of this video, but really great questions that were asked, and we have a few little sneak surprises to give you to show you at the end of this video. But first of all, I want to talk a little bit about what Project Dome is. And in this video, I'm not going to get really deep into the game itself, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what the project is, or what kind of game it's going to be, what its main purpose is, and some of the different modes of the game, so you kind of have an idea of how the game is going to operate. First of all, what type of game is it, or what is it per se? Well, it's a real-time strategy game. It's literally what this Project Dome is. It's obviously without tanks and ships and airplanes, but it's a real-time strategy game. I kind of lean towards the Civilization game, which, by the way, is an awesome game. I love playing that game, but does not have the turn-based aspect to it. And of course, instead of the world, we're going to be focused on the state of Oklahoma. I have an image there, kind of gives you kind of a concept of what we're kind of targeting for this particular game, although I wouldn't say the assets are quite as embellished as they are in Civilization 6, but it kind of gives you a high-level view of where we're going, like such the buildings and so forth, and kind of the landmass and so forth. So it kind of gives you an idea of what things look like, or where we're kind of heading towards. And obviously, when we get further into development, we'll start showing you what we actually have in place there. So what's the main purpose of this kind of a game? You know, in other games like Call of Duty, it's, you know, the last man standing, or some of these other games like World of Tanks, it's really the last man standing. You know, how, you know, your team has to win and so forth. Well, it's kind of similar to that, but really it's different. You're not trying to destroy people, you're trying to save lives and property, and that's really what the main purpose of this game is. And about the amount of lives that you save and the properties that you save allows you more experience points and more funds that you'll receive. And you'll use those experience points and you'll use those funds to expand your technologies and your research, so you can save more lives in the next storm mode that takes place. So that's really kind of the main purpose, or where your goals are with this particular game. But how do you go about doing that? Well, let's kind of talk a little bit about the high-level flow of this game. And again, we'll get into more details and more videos down the road. But really, there's two modes to this game, and there's what you call the build mode, is where you build your platform. This is where you build your technologies to use it in storm mode so that you can save lives. And storm mode is really where the action takes place. It's where the thick of the warnings take place, where the onslaught of severe weather's, you know, hitting hard, and you're having to make split-second decisions about warnings and watches and so forth to try and prevent lives from being lost, as well as sending in EMT teams to save lives where rescue situations need to take place. However, there is a twist to this game, okay? Unlike other games such as World of Tanks, you click a button and boom, you go into a session, and you know, have a ramp-up time and so forth. This doesn't work this way. Like in real life, storms can happen at any time, and sometimes they can be very unpredictable. Well, that's the same thing here. In storm mode, you may enter storm mode right in the middle of a major outbreak, or you might have missed it altogether. The important thing is what you do in your build mode, because in your build mode, as you advance technology, it's going to allow you to forecast better. So it will be able to give you a better idea of what the next day's weather scenario might be, so that you can plan for the severe weather mode. So that kind of is a different twist on this game, and we really think it's going to be kind of exciting, because, you know, you might go into a session, you might be really ahead of your co-workers or your friends and so forth in points, and you totally miss a storm day altogether, and boom, you know, oops, they're now ahead of you because you missed the day, so to speak. So let's break this down a little bit further so you have a better understanding of what these different modes are like. Build mode is where you receive your funds. And at the very beginning of the game, you're going to establish your name, you create your company, you locate your headquarters. And from your headquarters is where everything else branches out. You build units, you build other offices such as R&D offices, forecast offices, radar sites, emergency management areas, shelters, things of that nature, maintenance areas so that when your storm chasers come along, they need to fix their equipment, they have a place to go to do that. You'll move and position these areas all over across the state of Oklahoma so you're able to utilize them to cover the whole state. And you have to use certain key elements or units to be able to do this. Obviously, the builder units are used to build your offices and your headquarters and your radar sites and things of that nature. Your forecasters are used to be able to forecast the weather in advance, to give you an idea of when the severe weather and where the severe weather is going to be and how to position and so forth. The scientists are used to be able to advance your technology and your equipment to make it even better, more accurate forecast and accurate storm detection and so forth. Observers are kind of like chasers, but they're different. They're not as aggressive, but they're used to give back specific data on really kind of the advance of where severe weather would be. Chasers, obviously, we know what those are. They go and they chase the storms. They try and get in the way so that they can get more information about storms to get back. And then obviously you have emergency management, which allows you to set up and rescue people when bad things happen, disaster strikes a certain community. Research and build key equipment. This would include like warning sirens and shelters and mobile equipment and radio sounds and automated observation equipment and so forth. This is where you would build all kinds of different equipment or advanced equipment so that you can make better warnings and save more lives down the road. So that's kind of what the build mode looks like. So now what is storm mode? Well, it's kind of really what it says it is. It's really your storm session. And it's at this point that you're actually competing against other people at this point in time. And it really depends upon when you enter into the storm session. The storm session starts at midnight that day and ends at midnight that night. And the storms could occur at any point in time during that period of time. And it's really kind of in a virtual atmosphere. The system, it's all built back on our servers. It goes through and it creates a storm scenario for that week and allows you, your forecasters to be able to peek into that in certain aspects of it based upon your technology level, and allows you to observe or see what the virtual atmosphere is going to be for that day or for that week. And then when that storm session starts or that day starts, then it begins to start to mull out those storms based upon the conditions and so forth. Now, the other thing we need to know about this in storm mode is that you're going to have a wide variety of different types of storm modes. Some days you may have hardly anything. You may have really isolated events. But you may have one significant event during that day, or you may have a major outbreak, but they're kind of weak outbreaks. There may be large hail events, maybe an isolated tornado here and there, or maybe a massive apocalyptic type event like April 27th per se. Or you may have an absolute bust. You may thought it might have been an apocalyptic event, but there was absolutely nothing that took place at that point in time because the cap stayed strong and nothing occurred at that point. So the storm mode really is random and variable, but it does have somewhat of a cycle to it. So that's one thing to know about how Project Dome is going to work and so forth. So that kind of gives you a high-level view of what Project Dome is. And again, I said earlier, what we're going to do in videos that come up down the road, we'll talk more in depth about what those key aspects of this particular game is, and we'll obviously show you more about the game as we get further into development. But now what I want to do is I want to move into our questions that we've been asked from you guys that have been paying attention and following us through Twitter or Facebook or through YouTube. So that's what I want to focus on right now. Okay, so let's talk about our first question. This is from NDG Mad Jack from Twitter. He asks two questions. One, will Dow trucks be able to see through trees and buildings as in real life, and that wasn't his fault. That was my misprint. The question is, possibly. Remember that this is a game, so I don't know how much we're going to be able to limit that factor, but we will try to be as real as we possibly can. The next question he asked is, will the game be free to download and play? A lot of those questions will be answered as we get closer to the release of the game, probably around alpha, beta time. We haven't really determined that at this point in time. We do know that there will be an in-game app kind of purchasing system where you want to upgrade. Kind of, I look at kind of World of Tanks as kind of an idea that we're kind of going for, at least from an upgrade standpoint, but none of that's set in stone at this point. Right now our focus is just building the assets for the game and making the game itself. Great question. Next question is from Gaming Yoshi 1251YT, and again that's from Twitter. Will the game have a sandbox mode and a multiplayer capability? That's a good question. The multiplayer capability, yes, will be there most likely. And again, that's why we're doing a proof of concept to see if we can create that kind of environment. That's our goal, but we don't want to prevent it. We don't want to spend so much time on that we don't actually get a game out. In some way, there will be a multiplayer aspect of it. Whether you see the other person's player stuff on the game board or not, we don't know yet at this point in time, because that's the reason why we're working on this. But there will be a multi-competition player aspect to it, so you will be playing against other people. As far as a sandbox mode, we have not decided that at this point in time if there will be. It's a cool idea, but I don't know how it would be viable in this system at this point in time. So I can't really say that there will be. I would say likely there won't be at that point. Next question. J Power from Twitter. Will Project Dome be available to the public? That is a great question. A proof of concept, basically, what I kind of described in the first video that we did, is really more centered around the key aspects of the game, and can you make them happen or not? It's really kind of proving, can you do what you say you're going to do? So I don't know if it will be public or not, but I would say some aspects of it will be public. It's really kind of an idea, it's kind of a testing, I call it unit testing is really what it is. We have the ideas, now we're going to test them in different units. And so that's kind of our proof of concept. And it will be kind of a game, but will it be a full game? I don't know. But it will be, the full game will be built off of that, so that kind of gives you an idea. But a great question. Next question from Twitter, Zach the Twister. When will, if so, Project Dome be released to the public? If not, why? Well, that kind of relates to our last question. I would say some aspect of Project Dome will be released to the public. Project Dome itself will probably be more internal. We may use it for some publicity, or if we ever go to E3 or something of that nature, we may use it in that aspect to show people what we're working on. But I doubt the final product will look like Project Dome. Project Dome will be very kind of clunky. Like I said, it's kind of a unit test and so forth. But you'll see a lot of it publicly. Next question. How many different types of radars will there be? Reflectivity, velocity, and so forth. The answer to that question is there will be many, and a lot of it's being based upon your technology and the research that you do. We're kind of batting around the idea of a historical aspect of this game, kind of starting 1950s and working your way up through the technology, because that kind of gives you an advantage to start in the nowadays, right now phase of everything. It kind of seems odd to start out with a teletype and a black and white WSR 57 in the nowadays type scenario. So we haven't decided that per se at this moment, but that may be an idea that we're kind of chasing down the road. The word chasing, hence. But definitely, to answer your question, Jake, there will be velocity, there will be reflectivity, hail size prediction and things of that nature associated with radars, but that's all going to come as you advance in your technologies down the road. All right, from Mimman, I'm probably not pronouncing that right, Twitter. The question is price. What's the price going to be? Time? No. Really, I can't answer this question at this point in time. I know a lot of people have asked this question, but it really is hard to determine what we're going to ask for the price of this game. And the reason why is because we're still working out the platform. We know for sure the initial platform will likely be the PC. And the reason being is because to try and shoot for a mobile platform for this game, I think would kind of cheapen the game. Would really water down what we want to accomplish with both Project Wakita and Project Dome. And so we definitely are going to need something of a more of a powerful processing unit. And we know that obviously mobiles are becoming more powerful, but really the PC is going to be the better direction for us to go. So will that affect the pricing? It may not. They may be free, but the upgrades are cost a certain amount and so forth. We don't know yet at this point, but I will say this. Once we get to alpha testing and beta testing, we'll have a lot better idea of what the price will be. We'll be able to talk about it more. But thanks for the question, though. Next question from Jim Paul off of Twitter. Will there be a Doppler on wheels for your weather station? The answer to this question is yes. It won't be called Doppler on wheels, obviously, but there will be something like that, and you'll be able to advance that as time goes on and to upgrade your equipment. So yes, the answer to that question, Jim, is yes, there will be something like that within this game. Next question after that, from Jake Rogers at Facebook. Will the game come to console such as Xbox One X or PS4? That's a great question. I will say, first of all, the game we are targeting for is for the PC. I would definitely say soon after that we will shoot for the console, such as Xbox One or PS4. We would be foolish not to try and target those. But I think, that might be more Project Wakita than would be Project Dome, because Project Dome is more, again, like I said, more of a real-time strategy game, similar to Civilization, and I can't really see that working well on the console games. Project Wakita, definitely I would see that being on there. Next question, this is from Chase Wilson. He asked the question, like Project Wakita, will you be able to move around about freely in your office in Project Dome? I would answer this question as no. You're not going to be able to go into your office and then move from the forecaster room to the radar room to the observation room and so forth and look at observation equipment and things of that nature. This game is really kind of more of a strategy game than it is really a first-person or a third-person type game. Project Wakita will be more geared towards that down the road, and that might become viable. Those aspects might become more viable in Project Wakita, where you'll be able to get out of your vehicle and walk into the headquarters of the office and so forth. But that's down the road, and that's the reason why we're focusing on Project Dome right now with these games. Next question is from Jim from Facebook. Have you tried kickstarting this or something of that nature? And we also had another question from a person who asked about taking out a loan and so forth. And to answer that question, first of all, that's a good idea, and we're not hesitant to possibly doing that. Here's the thing. One is we want to be further along in this game first in our development before we even consider doing a Kickstarter situation, because we just want to be able to build everyone's trust that yes, if you're going to fund this, we want to make sure that we're going to follow through on it. We're still kind of in the early stages of this game. We're still in the proof of concept. And I think that will launch us off into the game, and if we can provide a viable proof of concept, then I think we'll gain enough trust from you guys to maybe do a public funding down the road. We also had questions from people asking, what about a venture capitalist to be able to help out that way, or taking out a business loan. Our only concern about doing that is we lose control over things at that point in time. We really want to remain in control of this as much as possible and not try and release the key aspects of what we feel is important about this game. And when you put the money in somebody else's hands and the funding in somebody else's hands, they tend to want to bring their input into it. Now, that may be a good thing, that may be a bad thing, and we may have to look into that down the road. But right now, that's not where we're heading. So we'll look at that maybe after the first of the year and see where things are going before we make a decision on that. Next question we have is again from Chase Wilson. He said, will Project Dome and Wakita be able to be played cooperatively with warnings being issued and with chasers chasing? Well, that's a great question. That brings me to my next slide here to answer this question. The ultimate goal of Project Dome and Project Wakita, the outflow of those games, is to join those two games together. So where in Project Dome you kind of got an RTS feel to it, you're the forecaster, you're the warning coordinator, and so forth. You're a real person. Those that are using Project Wakita or playing the game Project Wakita will be more of a first-person, third-person mode. They would be communicating back in real time to the people who are running in Project Dome. So there would be this one-on-one or one-on-team relationship that would be there. So that's the ultimate goal down the road. Now, will that happen right away? No, that won't happen right away. That's why we're developing these games separately, to see what we're able to do with these games and to be able to marry them down the road, to build the platform, allow for the technology to advance a little further so we can bring these two games together. My ultimate vision for this game is to see, someone who decides today, well, I'm going to be your warning coordinator and forecaster, so I'm going to start preparing all that stuff for you, and then I'm going to tell you, and maybe at 6 o'clock in the morning with a text message, hey, you need to move your vehicles here over towards Wakita, so that, because we think that's where the big storms are going to happen, and you've moved your team and your vehicles over there, and you're sitting there waiting for the storms, and when the storms form, you're now reporting back to that person who's running Project Dome, and they issue the warnings accordingly. So that's kind of the vision that we have for both of these games. So that was a great question, Chase, and that kind of gives us gave us leeway to kind of show you where we're heading with all this. Next question is from Adam from Facebook, and he says, how big of a library of vehicles will you have? Custom models and textures like a Ford Crown Victoria? Well, that's a great question, first of all. We hope to have a very large library of vehicles and technologies, and with those vehicles you'll be able to advance over time. Like we've kind of joked around how everybody, specifically in what Project Wakita would start out with like a rusted out, VW Bug type vehicle, and then you'd have to advance up from there to maybe a Dow and so forth, or Corvette or something, I don't know. We don't want to get silly or anything like that, but anyway, it just kind of gives you an idea of what we're doing. And then we had this thought, and this is what I want to show everybody and kind of give a sneak peek. We thought, why not pay tribute to Twister? And we lost the life of Bill Paxton recently, and that was really unfortunate. And for many of us storm chasers and many of us who just love weather, that movie has made such a huge impact on us. So we wanted to kind of give homage to Twister, not only with Project Wakita, but also to the vehicles that we provide in there. So what we have here is one of our designers who's begun designing the artwork for Project Dome and Project Wakita. And these would be vehicles that would be available to you to use or upgrade. They would be premium vehicles to use within the game. So here we have Dusty's barn burner van and so forth, or bus and so forth. That one's an iconic vehicle. Then we have Joe Harding's truck, and then the next one, which we were really proud of, is we have not only Project Toto, which is the so-called Dorothy 1, 2, and 3. We're going to use Toto, and then we also have the Paxmobile, which is the iconic Dodge 1995 Ford Dodge pickup. I almost said a bad word there, being Ford, but it's not Ford, it's Dodge. So please do not kill me if I said those wrong. So anyways, yeah, so this is what we're kind of looking for. We've already started the concept designs of these. We're actually going to be working on we're already working on the models themselves. So there's going to be two kinds of models. There'll be kind of what we call a low poly model, which will be used for Project Dome, and then a more detailed model which we'll eventually use for Project Wakita. So these will be models that will be included. We probably will not have the same markings within there because we do not want to infringe on any copyright laws that are there, but the concepts will be there per se. So that kind of gives you an idea of where we're headed down the road with the vehicles from the question that was given earlier there. So anyway, I just want to say thank you again to everybody who asked great questions this session. I hope you have a better idea of what we're dealing with Project Dome. Again, like I said, we will break down in more detail which each game mode means, which each character or unit means, and so forth. That'll be coming up in the next video, which will come out on December 2nd. We will not be doing a video in January due to the holidays and some very much needed time with our families, so do not expect one in January, but we'll pick it back up in February. And we want to encourage you to keep asking the questions, and if you ask a question, please use the hashtag AskStormQuest. Thank you again for watching today. We appreciate you guys following us. We ask you to join our Facebook StormQuest Facebook group when you get a chance, so you can get more details about things coming up or ask specific questions. And we appreciate you taking the time. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to us, like us over at Facebook and over at Twitter. Again, guys, thank you. We hope you have a great weekend.